What if I told you it was possible to double your business in 12 months? That's exactly what I did in the middle of COVID. When 2020 hit, we had to pivot. How did I do it? How did I grow a business from 32 million to $60 million in 12 months? Because I thought like a CEO. You see, a chief executive officer isn't working in the business, they're working on the business. And if you stick with me, I'm going to walk you through the key attributes of what it means to be a true CEO.
Welcome to the Launch Capsule. With your host, James DuBos. Buckle up because your launch capsule begins now.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey, thanks for joining me on this episode of the Launch Capsule. This is Jim DuBos, founder and creator of the DuBos Group and the Launch Capsule, along with the Top Gun Launch Academy. So today we're going to be focusing on acronym CEO, Chief Executive Officer. But in my own experience, after running 10 companies and selling 7, the first thing I would tell you is that middle letter, that letter E, can be replaced with a number of words that actually generate a completely different impact being a CEO. And the first word is education. What does that mean to be a chief education officer? Well, it means that I have to have skills that are constantly being refined in the market in order for me to maintain my value position with the customer that I am trying to serve. So that means I need to look at my employee community and say, what are the skills and attributes that they need to go execute on behalf of the customers that we are trying to serve? The next letter, E, would be empathy. I think that is a very important attribute. To be empathetic means to be able to listen to individual employee concerns, desires, and quite frankly, life situations are going to happen. I remember in one of my companies, I had a particular employee that was going through a very difficult personal experience, the loss of a child, and then the loss of a spouse. There are no words you can provide to a person experiencing those types of life situations, but you can listen. You can hear them. You can be there for them and support them during that journey. So having empathy and actively listening to another person's concerns, whether it be a personal difficult situation like I described, or maybe it's a professional goal that they're trying to attain, listen and try to consider, what can I do to help them in this moment in their life? The next word I would apply to E is excellence, the Chief Excellence Officer. So what is the bar you're setting for yourself and the rest of your team? One of my good friends used to say that people take on your personality, your dispositions, your attitudes. They're going to emulate you. So if you're late for meetings, guess what? Your team is going to be late for meetings. If you don't apply a certain level of critical, I'll say constructive review of your own work and your own output, you can't expect your team to do the same. So you have to be thinking in terms of, how do I elevate excellence inside of my organization? And it starts with me, quite frankly. One of my friends said, I'm the chief entertainment officer. And I love this expression because you have to have an element of joy in the company. You have to be joyful in what you do each and every day, because if work is a grind, quite frankly, it's going to come out in the way that you're serving each other inside of the company and ultimately the customers that you're in business to serve. So you have to have joy. And so this entertainment concept really is just about making sure that your work environment is not all just funk, right? It has a joy to the environment, and that you come to work each and every day looking forward to serving and helping customers in the business you're operating in. The next one is a really critical one, and I would say the Chief Earnings Officer. And so ultimately, being the chief executive, the buck stops with you. You're responsible for the outcomes of your company, and that includes the financial outcomes of your company. And so if you aren't critical of yourself. You need to be making decisions that are in the best interest financially for the company and making sure that you have long-term sustainability, regardless of what the environment throws at you, like a COVID environment as an example. And finally, I would say the word that I love to think about in the CEO is the Chief Employee Officer. Richard Branson has a beautiful expression: take care of your employees because they take care of your customers. And so if you're constantly thinking about each team member, what can you do to elevate them? I like to think of it this way. Every employee brings their professional and personal hopes and dreams into the company. And so if you as an individual executive can help them achieve their personal and professional goals, the company will be better for it. They will appreciate each other, and fundamentally, they will appreciate you for listening and for caring about their personal outcomes. So this, to me, is the most critical of the environment that the CEO builds. Now, there's a few things that I want to focus on, and they're really just personal attributes that the CEO needs to have. And for me, it's fundamentally the goal of the CEO is to inspire and drive success in the business. Because in the end, that is really what is the measure of the CEO. In my Entrepreneur's Guide to Fulfillment, in that book, I wrote about 4 personal attributes that I believe the individual entrepreneur owner must possess in order to be truly effective and fulfilled in their business. And this idea behind servant leadership, inspiring others by the way that they are treated in the environment, and really, as Simon Sinek says, taking care of the people in your care. That's the fundamental goal of the CEO. And I think it really is about driving and inspiring success in the business. So the first attribute I want you to think about is visionary thinking. Obviously, the CEO's responsibility is fundamentally not just to make decisions in the day, but to, as I describe it, I need to think about not just where is the puck, to use a hockey expression, not where the puck is today, but where is the puck going to be in 12 or 18 months, in making strategic decisions and laying a roadmap to be sure that we can be there when that puck arrives 12 to 18 months from now. So this idea behind visionary thinking is critical for an effective CEO. The second element I would say for a CEO is to be decisive in this art of delegation. So the CEO must be willing to make the hard decisions, even when they're unpopular. That also means you have to have the ability to measure risk effectively, but not get stuck in this idea around analysis paralysis. So you have to be willing to make a decision. At the same time, you also have to be willing to delegate and trust the team that you've put in place to be able to execute on your behalf. So it's this combination of willingness to evaluate risk and fundamentally make a decision, and at the same time, delegate and allow others to execute according to the strategy that you've laid out before them. Next is emotional intelligence and empathy, that word empathy again. So I think part of the attribute of the CEO is being emotionally stable. My father used to describe it, be a duck on water. You could be calm up top, but those little feet are pedaling down below, but no one sees those feet beneath the surface. They just see a duck moving across the water. And I think that emotional intelligence, that stability, is critical for the company long term. Next up would be the idea of resilience. Resilience to me is a personal characteristics that no matter how hard things get, and there will be moments when it gets hard. I think back to the moment when COVID hit and we went into lockdown. 95% of my employee community went home. Now you have to understand, in this business and at this time, we were basically a $30 million a year company. we needed to rotate and change the way we sold to customers. At the same time, we knew we were going to have supply chain issues. So part of the strategy that we developed was each account manager had contact with their customers, developed a 12-month view into their procurement needs, and we made sure to get our customers' orders in line because we knew first in was going to be first out. And so we encouraged our customers to make acquisition, even though it could be 8 to 10 to 12 months before some of those orders were able to be fulfilled due to supply chain issues. So that pivot, that change in strategy and approach served us as the company well, because we were able to insulate ourselves from a downturn in our sales volume. And at the same time, we were serving our customers because we didn't want them to get pushed to the end of the line while they were waiting on product due to supply chain issues in order to fulfill their business outcomes that they were trying to accomplish. So this strategy change was very important. And again, the resilience aspect of the CEO was really being a stable element inside of the company, even though there was a lot of fear and instability in the world and inside the company as a whole. Effective communications. One of the things that I learned was the more transparent that I could be, not just with the layers of management that we had inside the company, but also with the employee community as a whole, built mutual respect and, quite frankly, a good constructive feedback. So being able to communicate, hey, here's the vision, here's where we want to go, here's how you impact that specific area of the business that you work in, whether you were in sales, support, administration, whatever your functional role was inside the company, we made sure that you understood how you impacted the strategic vision of the business. And it served us really, really well as a group. Okay, so the last thing I want to close on is this idea around culture. And I believe that the CEO sets the tone for the cultural establishment of the company. And so as you go through these areas of being a visionary, being decisive, your emotional intelligence, resilience, and your effective communications, you also need to have an awareness that people are going to take on your attitudes and your dispositions as the chief executive officer. So I hope this helps you as you're discerning what are the things that I need to do as I start to think about scaling my business and beginning to bring others into the management chain of the company, in this idea around thinking and acting like a CEO. So until next time, have an awesome day.
That's a wrap for today's episode of The Launch Capsule. With your host and mentor to success, James DuBos. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and share.